Eric, we ready in the booth? Good morning, everyone. Apologize for us being a little bit behind. We had a board training this morning, which was great. Karen, thank you and Daphne, thank you all for putting that together for us. The rest of you, I'm sure you're going to get that opportunity, and it's well spent time, and we appreciate the consulting staff and staff putting that together. So, but it does make us a little bit behind, I think, along with the fact that southbound 121 was closed today. Getting here was a difficult time. So I'm informed of no citizens wishing to address to the committee this morning. We'll move to item 3, approval of the minutes from the April 24th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read those? If so, we'd entertain a motion. Have a motion from Dr. Casey. Okay, a second from Dr. Fowler. Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That will take us to Jill and Ramon Guajardo. Thank you for being here today. Master Facility Plan Construction Update.
Good morning. We will go through our standard updates. I will let you know our new Vice President Facilities has started. He is unable to be here today, but you will meet him at our next board meeting as well as our next Finance and Planning Committee. And so you'll see less of me at this table talking about the Master Facility Plan, although I will still remain heavily involved as I've learned a lot and I'm super interested and it's been a lot of fun. So, but we'll give the update for today.
Thank you for all your work on that, Jill. I know you've been anxious to get this new person on board, but you've done a super job and we appreciate all the extra hours you've put in fulfilling that role.
Thank you.
Terrific. Good morning. My name is Ramon Guajardo Jr. with Ramel Company. Go ahead and get started. One thing I do want to point out on these new dashboards, if you'll see at the top left corner, we now are showing our contractors and design teams. I think those have been some questions as they come up here and there on who they are. So we're going to have that there for all the placemats going forward. So there's no question on who is working on this. With regards to the Psychiatric Emergency Center, going to kind of start off with our activity updates. Right now, elevators have been completed. They have been state inspected as well. So the elevators are actually in use so that when we do come for moving furniture, we will be able to use the elevators. Flooring is complete. A lot of our finishes are starting to get complete, so millwork as well. I know we're working on finalizing some of the nurses' stations. A lot of this hard ceilings, hard lid ceilings are already in. Lights are burning. It's really becoming to look like a real place where you can see patients. We still are looking at a go live of the week of September 15th. Again, the big gap in between completion and go live is really just the activation. Getting the furniture moved in, getting the FF&E all in place, getting all the equipment, getting staff trained and everything, and make sure it goes smooth on go live. This facility is very unique in the sense of it's kind of a special facility that we can't get in there after the fact, after we open up very easily. It's very hard to get into a behavioral health setting after the fact. So we really want to make sure that we have everything ahead. We are working on finalizing the activation plan so that we are very well prepared for that turnover.
And I'll just add, I mean, if you look out my window, and I know we're showing an aerial view now, but landscaping is actually now being placed. And so even the exterior is looking like we're going to open any day, which is not accurate. But just to let you know, I mean, it's really coming along and it really does take shape of what this facility will look like for our patients and our staff.
And I will say we are kind of holding off on that logo going on the building just because that really shows when buildings are open. So I just want to be upfront with you. A logo will be on the building, but we're going to be very timid on putting it up because we know the minute that happens, open is expected. Any other questions on the Psychiatric Emergency Center?
I can tell
by
watching the lightness of Zelia's step when she's walking.
That area is going to be widened.
It will not be widened. That's not part of the plan currently.
It just appears there's going to be a lot of traffic.
Oh, it's going to be a whole lot of traffic in there till we get the new parking garage open for sure.
Yeah.
Correct.
I will say it a little bit different operation going forward. Right now, there's a lot of traffic from our law enforcement that comes into the front of the TSP. That'll really change. That flow of traffic will be in the back of the new Psychiatric Emergency Center. And so that flow will be removed from the front of the buildings. And again, that's really for dignity and respect of kind of that, that process. So that'll be removed. They typically don't have a lot of traffic from a visitor perspective. It's really going to be for the people who are accessing that building. To Trent's point, ultimately, a lot of the traffic here is going to be moved to the new parking garage ultimately, but that is one piece of the traffic that'll be removed with this.
All right.
Terrific.
For you, I see your substantial completions on 6/6, that's here in a few weeks, so when do we get our CO or our final inspection, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so the June 6th date will be substantial completion, so that will actually have a TCO with it from the city of Fort Worth that will allow us to move the furniture, fixtures, and equipment in. Doesn't allow us to occupy yet for final. As we progress through there, there are some things that need to be closed up because we will have some work kind of going on behind the scenes, but we will have our final CO from, actually, no, we have a water tie-in that'll be a little bit later. So we're going to be operating on a TCO until that final water connection is done, which is about 9 months after opening. So we will be operating. We've already sat down with the city. We've mapped this all out with them. They're well aware of the services that are being provided and the timing of the deliverables of those. And right now, we will open under a TCO technically, but the final inspection, the final approval will come when that second water tie-in is done 9 months later on. So yes, if it wasn't for that, we would have a final CO at the time of go live. Yes, sir.
Bill or Ramon, would you just characterize for us the divergence between the actual and cumulative cash flow?
Yeah.
And tell us what that means and what that looks like going forward.
Yeah, so right now our cumulative cash flows, they're kind of what it's showing is that a lot of the work is happening. They just haven't been billed up to a lot of our larger equipment. So a lot of the stuff like Covalus, when they come in with medical equipment, those are big ticket items. So when this cash flow projection was done by the previous program manager, they had a certain curve to it. And I'm sure there was a good kind of reasoning for that. But right now what it is just big, heavy tickets. Like you see, the elevators are now complete. We're about to get hit with that final cost. So it's really just the differential right now is just that billing catching up with that true projection. One thing we did correct, I think it was last month, we had the projected cash flow a little bit higher than was normal. It was pointed out. We've got that to where it's supposed to be. There was a level of savings that was removed out early in the project that wasn't captured in your cash flows. But the differential right now is just that those big ticket items from the equipment, if you will, mechanical, elevators, medical equipment, just haven't been realized in the invoicing.
So at what point will we see the actual cost of the entire facility finished and occupied?
So what you'll see is you'll probably see around the go live time, because sometimes even that invoicing starts to kind of lag, if you will. They're just so focused. It's not that it's not there. We are starting to also understand if there's any realization of savings, so we can put that back in the program and things like that. So right now we're trending very well. We're keeping very close tabs with the contractor. Like for instance, he just released some equipment that was $50,000 just for one piece. So again, those tickets are starting to be realized.
Okay.
And we will actually close out the program. Like we haven't closed out a Medical Home Southwest yet because we're still doing those final things. And so it'll be several months before we actually close out the project, if you will, and see what savings that we have. I'll also add to, with the changeover, there has been, some lag in getting really everything up to speed and where it needs to be. So I think that's additive to this as well. We're getting in a really good place though.
I think it'll help that on each one of these facilities, as we complete them, that we have a summary dashboard.
Yes, we will.
That says, hey, here it is, closed out. Start
I
to
agree.
finish. I think it would help all of us perspective.
Well, and I need to bring back to you too, what is that savings? And that we are moving it back into the overall program. So yes, I agree. Thank you.
Great. Okay. That takes care of PEC.
Yep.
All right, moving into the new garage. Again, we've got a go live in spring of 2026. I will tell you, the contractor won't tell you this under oath, but we are ahead of schedule, if you will. We did get out of the ground. We got a lot of this concrete poured with very minimal impacts from the weather. Now, I will say we're about to install the skin, so we're still susceptible to the weather a little bit. But the good thing is we're ahead of it. So our activities right now, we've course, completed the roofing. The roofings are really just on the elevator bays and stuff. It's not a whole lot of roofing. We've got over 55% of the topping slabs complete. We're probably more in the 65 range at date right now. Our underground utilities, of course, are complete. But we're at the early stages of installing the actual skin. So in the coming month, you're going to start seeing that skin showing up. It's going to come in phases. You'll see the structure first and then the actual finish. But they are moving progressively very well. If you go on St. Louis right now, you'll see that that whole right-of-way is shut down because they've got a platform for their lifts to drive on. And so you're going to see that that skin's going to start coming on pretty quick. Everything right now is progressing really well. Again, the contractor won't give up any of his float right now, but we are noticing that we are ahead of schedule. And you will see that kind of in the cash flow. You see how the cash flow's gone a little ahead of what the projected was. Well, why? Because we put that in place. So we are getting, that's a good indicator of being ahead of schedule when you start looking at those cash flows. Because again, a lot of the big ticket items have come in or are coming in, but we are ahead of that schedule right now. And what that'll do is as we get closer to the end of the year, that's going to determine what go live is, which really helps for operations when that switchover of parking is, as well as realizing any income off that garage.
Is the intent at the opening of this to immediately close the existing garage or not?
No, the intent will be to close the temporary parking.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Correct.
nothing will change in terms of the current
The
parking.
main garage will stay here for now. Yes. We will be moving everybody
Ralph
that
was
parks in the
concerned
temporary.
because he was going to have to make that long walk.
We do have shuttles. Yeah.
Skin is mentioned that the current parking garage will remain open. And then going back to the BEC, what is the cause of the 9-month additional time for the final water time? Is that normal?
I'll start with PEC. So that's probably the hardest one. So the PEC, the water is just due to coordinating with the city of Fort Worth. They have a major infrastructure line that they need to do some upgrades to, and the timing just needed to work with that. So we have our initial tie-in. This facility has redundant feed. It's not required, but it does have redundant feed. So the first one's already in. It's the second one that comes off of the Allen line. It's due to the city's just timing and wanting to redo that line and allow us to tap that line. So it's no delays to us or anything like that. It's not delaying the project. It's just a coordination with the city. They're sometimes difficult. We're definitely in an aging neighborhood of utilities. So we see this a lot where the utility we're tying into is not ready for us. And it also incurs extensive work downstream, if you will, or upstream, if you will. So that's the reason on that. The parking garage skin is going to be one that's going to be cladded almost like a building. You know, when you look at it, you're not going to see all these levels. So it's going to hide all of the parking that you see. You'll really have to look detailed in it. I can get a rendering on here next month, so y'all can get a better idea of what that concept is because it's set in stone. So it's good to circulate, but it's going to really hide the garage, if you will. So when you look at it from a perspective of everything in a whole, it's going to look fluid to buildings. It's not going to be a standalone garage.
We also had to take this to near South Side to approve what this garage looks like. So, yeah.
And as far as the timing, I think Jill will probably be able to speak better to the timing of when the garage will close. But I don't think until you've really decommissioned this hospital and it's moved over that everyone's going to be leaving that garage, if you will. Again, the main goal is to open up Lot A for construction where the new hospital is. So it's very imperative that we get this garage up and going as quick as possible so we can start moving the staff that park and the visitors that park into that garage. And again, we do have shuttling, so we will be able to still maintain shuttling to the hospital so they won't have to walk all the way as far. Does that answer your questions?
I hate to ask this question,
Oh, goodness.
but for the city of Fort Worth, you said
Yeah.
construction down Ellsworth, is it in an easement or is it under?
No, it's in the road.
Oh,
Yeah, it's in the road. If it was in the right of way, it would probably be a little bit easier, but it's in Allen. Correct. Improved. It's a combination. It's a partnership. I think ultimately we've got control over it all, but it's got city participation in it. So they do have their involvement. That's also kind of the lengthy process is when you get city participation, it adds time to the approvals and all.
Are they looking to advertise it for additional additional capacity?
No, they're looking to help fund the project. So yes, there is increasing of capacity. Since we're there, they're like, okay, you only need this size. Let's go to this size. We'll help with the offset of that cost.
Water immediately, fire flow?
Yes. Yes, that we've already sat down with the fire marshal. Our first tie is that to the fire suppression system. And so they've already blessed this whole approach. Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, moving on to, these are now our projects that are in design. So the medical outpatient building, we've already completed the programming and concept phase. We've started the actual schematic design. It started in April. It's going to go through August. I do have kind of the Women's Center identified as well. We've started that schematic design as well. It's not as lengthy as a process as the hospitals is, but it's progressing very well. Right now, the MOB kickoff for our meeting was on the 30th of May. And again, we've already progressed. I think we're already into our second SD sets of drawings. So it's progressing very well. A lot of things are being defined on our floors and stuff like that, where the ambulatory surgery center is, where imaging is, things like that. And we're also looking at, early occupancy of certain areas, very early stages of looking at it. But we understand that we need to combat things like tariffs and things like that. So we need to look at opportunities for increasing or moving up, making money, if you will. Any questions?
Yeah, just one thing, just for clarification to the board, women's clinic is being called out, because remember, we have a women's center currently that we're going to have to relocate into the medical office building and vacate for public health to move into that building. So that's why that's being.
And that has a very hard date of December of 2026 for us to be occupied. So we got to move out of the county's building and into our building before or on December of 2026. And we're on pace for that.
That's women's
Women's
health
clinic.
clinic that sits right next.
Across the street.
And Blake, next month, we'll bring back a rendering much like this for the parking garage, so you'll know what it kind of looks like, but it will be complementary to this building since they're next to each other.
What's the estimated completion date for the hospital?
So the office building, 2029, I think it is. But again, that's where we're looking at how we can do early occupancies on certain floors. The women's center, though it's in this budget, it's a separate building in the garage, so it's not tied to that schedule. The women's building is a standalone. It's part of the retail space in the garage, so that schedule fits with what we need to get out of our lease area on. Yes. No, permanent. Has its own parking, its own entrance, everything in the garage, so it's really
First level.
separated. Yep.
All right. Any other questions on the MOB?
All right, new hospital, schematic design. We are already through SD4. SD5 is going to be our schematic design is going to be our 5 is our last phase. It is not the entire departments. We're over 2/3 already signed off on the hospital. The other third, if you will, if it is even that, it's very minute. So even our meetings are being condensed to shorter meetings, but we're getting very good traction on signing off. So we're going to be looking at moving into Tchd, which is the next phase, which is where we really define the rooms, the layouts, things like that are going to be starting in August, and that will go through January, February of 2026. So it's a fast-paced move in Tchd, but it really sets the tone for what the construction is going to look like at that time. The bottom right there, phase of construction, is probably the most important thing to highlight in this entire presentation. Is later on you'll have the opportunity to hear about and approve the first package for the hospital. This is literally the first construction package, the first dollar spent on true construction towards the hospital. It is an enabling package. What that means, it allows us to move things out of the way for the hospital to be erected. It will include relocation of site utilities that are currently in the footprint of the hospital that need to be moved out of the way. It will be the relocation of the ambulance drop-off. We have it currently where it is. It's right in the middle of where the hospital goes in the sense of where we need to dig a 30-foot pit. So we need to get that out of the way. Operational, been working hand in hand with Near Southside and CETA Fort Worth on the approval of that. We've got a good game plan that we're refining. And then again, like I said, we're going to be excavating for the actual basement, that lower level of that hospital in this package. So this is a very significant day for y'all that you're really putting your first approval and moving forward in construction. Y'all done a lot of design approvals up to this point. This will be the first time that you'll actually have dollars going towards the erection of the hospital. So it's a big day for y'all. Any questions on the hospital?
Maybe a Rory question, but when will we see the next tranche of bonds sold relative to this project?
Early stuff.
27, okay. Exciting stuff from these new pictures.
On a comment that, sitting here is exciting. Go from years ago, off of the table, to actually seeing the reality of it now.
Sure is. Just about 10 years late, but yeah.
I will point out that we kind of have a floor plan image of the hospital. What that's really depicting is how that H is kind of an offset H. There's been a lot of studies on that. Patient satisfaction, staff satisfaction. You see these long corridors that we have. If you really lined up that H, you'd have 4 long corridors, and it would look very massive, very intimidating. By doing this offset, you create some opportunities. Number one, you create some nice areas for the waiting areas on each floor, for the family to go sit at and stuff like that. Gives it, 2 side windows, a very inviting area. Really, it also just gives a lot better staff participation with the actual patients in this H. And again, a lot of studies went into it. I had no say in it, but this was a very well received, even after going and touring Parkland, looking at what Parkland done, looking at how that looked. When you look down their corridors and you can see forever, it's very intimidating. And a lot of times they said that they had to staff up just to combat that intimidation. Even though it may have been the same count of rooms or something like that, it just looked so long and far, and it just was problematic for them and just satisfaction. So again, I kind of want to show that because that shows the thought that's going into our design teams and the end user participations. It's being very, very well, received, the information, documented, and implemented. It's not just my way and my way only, if you will, from a design perspective.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Set H here.
Yes, sir.
How does that tie into the building concept that you got? Is that just the ground 2 floors?
No, so the ground, so the lower level and 2 floors above, 3 floors above will be a podium that's larger, and then you'll have the towers that fit within that podium. So the podium is going to be, let's just hypothetical for round numbers, say it'll be 3 times the size of this footprint overall, and then these will come out of that podium, if you will.
Does this offset H go all the way to the top floor?
All the way to the top floors, yes.
Picture we're looking at.
Yep.
Can't see the offset H in the picture. It looks more like a U.
Correct. Yeah, you can't see it in these renderings because you can't see the backside of it. We can get some renderings where it has a more aerial to where you can get a little 3D perspective of it. What they've given us right now, they don't have that really H shown very well, but it is very well depicted to where it is. Correct. This is on, what you're seeing right now is going to be flipped on the backside. Massive. It is over 1 million square feet.
I will bring another picture. Actually, I just received it. We just received it. A rendering of what the skyline will look like with actual Magnolia Street now looking down at our campus, the skyline of the new JPS. That'll include the hospital as well as the parking garage and all of our structures. And so we'll bring that next month because that was pretty amazing to see yesterday what will look like in the future from a skyline perspective. To your point, massive buildings in this south side.
If y'all ever drive on Rosedale heading westbound, when you there's a crest right when you go under 287, you kind of crest up and you can really start to see the landscape of JPS. Make that drive one day. Get a kind of look at how the garage looks. You can see the North Pavilion as well now. And then we'll bring that next rendering, you'll see, and it is going to tower what is currently in place. What y'all think is big with the garage is going to be nothing compared to what the hospital will be. It's a very large building.
Jill, would you outline, just remind us, now that we're about to start design development phase, what's the process by which we're seeking physician input, visiting with our departments? Where does that communication go?
It is overwhelming participation. Let me tell you, it is a heavy, and I really thank not only providers, nurses, staff across the board, when we sit in these SD meetings, they're week-long SD meetings, and it has every discipline represented dependent upon the group that we're meeting with. So for example, when we're talking about the emergency department and that expansion and any remodeling that we're doing, the temporary ambulance bays, Dr. Kirby's in that meeting from a physician standpoint. She brings usually Dr. Knowles. There's the nursing leaders that are in that as well. The ancillary services, so lab, pharmacy, radiology, whoever's going to touch that space is represented in every single SD meeting. It'll be the same for DD. What's really interesting, and again, learning process here, this is heavy staff participation early on. And then we're done, right? We kind of step back and then we'll be in construction phase. And so I can't tell you the number of hours that our teams are spending in these meetings to make sure we're getting their spaces right.
There are over 33 different departments that we're meeting with independently during this process. To say inclusion would just be the tip of it. The inclusion starts at a lower level and then rises to a higher level and then rises to the executive level. So we're hearing from all levels. Decisions are made at each level because a lot of it does have cost impact to it. But nonetheless, the inclusion is all the way from the bottom to the top in unison. It's very impressive, I will admit.
Well, that's something that you would assume would always occur, but unfortunately, when we built the pavilion, it didn't occur.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that we just need to constantly be reminded. This is all about making certain that our staff has input, that they know what's going to happen, and that we've got a plan to accommodate what their needs are.
Yeah, and I agree. And we also update, you mentioned just even all staff. We provide updates through our town halls and through other ways. And so people are getting that information ongoing because people kind of forget. There's a lot going on, but they don't see it going on. And so we do provide, just widespread communication about our progress as well through many, many ways. But I agree with you. It's important because the end product, I don't ever want someone to say, I wasn't included, no one included me or asked my opinion. We can't ask everyone's opinion. We do have representatives, but it is well represented amongst every discipline. So,
Good.
yes.
Great.
Since he's not here, we get that third course.
Miss a meeting, you lose the floor.
But yeah, I mean, all the position chairs have been involved, and of course, they bring along people along the way too that they think are important for the conversation. So,
And the goals are efficiencies, making sure that we're efficient with the layouts, making sure that the staff can communicate better efficiencies that they experience on a day-to-day level and how that can intertwine into the design. Designs are great, don't get me wrong, but the ones that live it every day can really attribute. The other thing is understand that this is a legacy building. This isn't for you, it's not for me, it's for the people that are of the future. So making sure that we have adaptive space for the future and make sure it's inclusive for all of what the procedures are, the process is. Not just the way you do it, because you may do it this way, but this person may do it this way. And so we've got to adapt to make sure that we design to handle all. Yes.
Are we looking not only at what we need today and 6 years when the building opens?
So
and I say we are. I mean, we also utilize consultants that help. And so obviously Will, for example, is a great IT expert and his knowledge is awesome. But we bring in other experts as well who know what the landscape is looking like to make sure whatever we're doing is setting us up for the future, not only for today, but for 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We're still not going to always know the answers. And so I think his point around flexibility and adaptability of these buildings is very important because no one would have ever thought we'd still be in this building today, but we are, and we've adapted and we figured it out. But, we definitely consider that as we're thinking about the future. I'll say this as well. I mean, we've been in these buildings for so long, and so our processes are what they are. We really stretch our teams in thinking about the future as well, because the current processes aren't necessarily how we should be doing them in the future. And so we bring some of that process improvement when he talks about efficiencies into these conversations as well.
And I'll tell you this, that yes, they look at adjacent areas that if a department needs to grow, they put something adjacent that can easily be moved, so it can grow. And you're looking at your critical areas for that. So, you know, I know Dr. Assad has been well in our conversations about that, about, okay, if it grows, how can it grow? And the design team have shown very well opportunities for that in the future. So again, put some admin here, something here. Oh, guess what? We need to grow a department. Okay, admin, we can go somewhere else. They're easily adaptable. You can't move an OR very easy. If you need to expand ORs, let's give them that space to do it nearby. And it's in the sense of put someone there that's adaptable to move.
Expansion in 10 years from now, any hours, what do we do?
So right now what they're doing is you've got your existing pavilions that have the opportunities. So you've got areas that can easily be adapted to ORs and later. So that's really where that focus has been. So it's actually a great point that you brought up, because it has been brought up by the staff as well, that we need to plan for that, because however many ORs we have today is going to be great. And it is more than we have, but there's going to be more in the future. So again, there is that adaptive space right there, because what you don't want to do is start separating those to where you have to add support services to. You want to utilize what's there. And so, yes, those approaches have been thought into.
Hospital, basically where they are now.
Correct.
But there'll be
Yes.
room to expand.
Correct.
We'll be expanding, and then we'll have additional shell space. And to Ramon's point, anything that's around things that we think we're going to have to expand in the future, those adjacencies are something that can be moved to a different location. If you recall, you know, we tightened up the podium. We moved the North Pavilion expansion up against the hospital, which created another space for a third tower. And so everything that we think about in these towers is, in the future, if we have a third tower, someday somebody will be building a third tower after us, likely. But what will make sense from that perspective, from an adjacency perspective, that we can move and still be able to maintain the proper spaces so we don't divide important departments.
When you're saying third tower, I'm looking at this, it's almost 5 towers right now. Boy, is a third tower like another offset leg?
It could. Mhm.
It could be. The good thing is, yeah, we have no idea, because we don't want to get into those conversations. I'll be honest
But
with you.
we created that green space that's adjacent, and, you know, the ability to expand on the hospital footprint. That was the gain with that new idea.
And again, everything that touches that area right there is easily adaptable to a third tower tying to it. So again, we didn't put critical things on that end, on that north end, to where when you adapted a new tower, now you're having to move, or you create a complex circulation or anything like that.
Okay, but when y'all are talking about second tower, third tower, the towers are like these big structures coming off of the spine. Is that the tower there?
Correct. They'll go up though, but yes, what your spine is basically your podium, and then everything comes out of your podium. So what you see right here at the bottom, all that's in that kind of glass where it's kind of lit, that's your podium. And that podium goes down still another floor below grade.
But understand, third tower is not financed. It's not
No,
contemplated.
we're not planning at all.
I'm talking future.
I really want to get this, I really want to get these two built.
I think it's but I do think it's a good question. How are we planning for the future? So
So-
we are.
Yes, sir.
I love, these are beautiful. Some of our, have larger group. Know we're designing for efficiency and everything, so I'm so glad that everybody's doing it. Who's responsible for making sure that we're doing this as cost consciously as we can, given where we are with the dollars to expense?
So it's us, it's JPS. And I say us because I know I'm a consultant, but I'm part of the PDC team. So it's us. We're the ones that are honing in. We're sitting in these meetings. We're no longer on the outsides listening, waiting for things to be digested to us. We're part of those conversations. So whenever we see struggles like this, we pull it off to the side, work that struggle. The ambulance drop-off was a major struggle. That's been going on since August. And so that's a prime example of how we take control of that, because again, it needs to be in the best interest of JPS, patient care, patient satisfaction, and staff satisfaction, you know, and that's kind of what we look at. So to say who's this fall on, it falls on JPS to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible.
And of course, we work with our consultants,
Yeah.
right? And we go back and forth. What are better ways, different ways of thinking of how we could do this differently?
I mean,
It's ongoing.
even Puff and I saw it, boy, just trying to strike that good balance between buildings and efficiencies of buildings and having them for hopefully decades to come. So I know that that's something that you guys are looking at.
And one of the things is the reason why these are labeled as concepts, because we do expect those renderings to change.
This is the first time we've ever seen
Right.
this, and it's probably the third version of that I've seen.
Yeah.
This process is iterative.
And it will change. That's why we're saying concept, because as we need to be efficient, we need to look at big ticket items. That skin's a big ticket item.
But are we, are consultants, there is a problem.
Yeah, and we are. We're actually working on a tariff impact plan right now. I mean, I think you all recognize and you see it in the news. It's one day it's this, the next day it's that. And so it is kind of hard to pinpoint. But we are going to be, we are evaluating currently with our contractors to determine kind of pros and cons and risks of pre-buying versus waiting. It's a very touch and go situation, much like you read in the news.
What we can get from this facility, we started nowhere.
Correct.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Comment about looking futuristically, we are doing our best shot with the consultants about telehealth.
Yeah.
From the clinic perspective, like music. But we are doing our best shot for that. So
I think one area where we should not spare any expense is what new fathers sleep on.
Do you not like your sleeping quarters?
So real quick, I was told this room is not meant for you, husband. That's what I was told.
Talk about a $1.2 billion building all along to have back in Austin and some of these folks in here, because I hear a lot of concerns, of value engineering and rising cost of tariffs, and, timeline when you get this thing going. I don't know, maybe just have a little bit more in-depth, obviously not looking to micromanage,
Well,
but just to better understand.
yeah, we tried to do that with that larger group, and it sometimes feels like, to Ralph's point, like a moving target.
I see.
And that's why I asked, and I know we're doing it.
Right.
And I think it's probably just gonna be a thing to the first couple of.
Until the last screw goes in. Yeah, absolutely. As Jill said, it's that plan that's important, being ready, not reactive. It's one thing to say we have tariffs tomorrow and how we're going to handle them. It's another thing to say, if tariffs happen, here's how we're ready. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get out. We're trying to get a good runway for an opportunity for savings. If there's tariffs, great. If there's not, there's still opportunity. Massive buying, a standardization of equipment and things like that. Those are all on the table for us in early procurement. And I will say this, our neighbors, Cook's Children is ahead of us right now. They're putting money out there right now. They have a method. We're starting to reach out to them and start communicating with them on what their ideas are. Hey, if you have a warehouse, can we borrow your warehouse rather than have our own kind of thing? So we're starting to work with our neighbors as well and understanding how they're combating it so we can help as well.
Tim and Dustin, you both have good points. And I think what we're probably going to do is once we start getting into design on this second, the tower phase of this, we're probably going to start adding a value engineering component to this presentation. And some of that will involve Beck, some of it will involve architects, just on a routine basis to make sure that we've got an ongoing handle on that and their
Well,
involvement.
and I love the idea of having them come and, put it in terms of, this is the thing we can post questions about.
Yeah,
in the
sure.
community.
You bet.
What are we gonna do? To the concept of
Yeah.
What bonds and cash we have, what the ultimate ticket price would be.
Right.
But that's your world way within his mind, but to be able to communicate that, know what's happening with that. is so important.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Dustin's question also, some years ago, a CEO from San Antonio.
Let's do that quickly.
On board, talk about this experience.
Mhm.
They built that new facility.
Mhm.
And give the in-depth
Let's try to get out of here.
conversation on what they.
Right.
Yep.
The other thing is, I just would hope the board would understand is that, as you asked about the escalating costs, is that we get to that point and then we all say, oh no, we're that far over budget with it. The cost is gonna rise. We're not prepared to know that that's gonna take place, because I would hate for us then to start cutting back on a facility that's
Well, this is kind of first step of a lot of steps that have to be traveled to be able to get this piece of the plan progressing. So,
Him in the hole, he's got a checkbook waiting.
yes, I,
All right, real quick, we'll just touch on the cup.
Yeah.
We've probably gone.
So our essential utility plan is in schematic design as well. We've already completed programming. We're actually looking at getting efficient and combining kind of our SD and DD stage together. There's only 3 departments that sit in that building. Why can't we accelerate that design schedule and get it going? Because the cup is critical for the hospital when it needs power, when it needs water. It's for startups and stuff like that. It needs to be there. So we need to work at accelerating that. And that's all we have.
when the cup is complete, Ramon, are we going to be transferring some existing load into the cup?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All of it or?
Correct. So the pavilion will be coming strictly off the new cup, yes.
Should, certainly should. Yep. All right. Anything else? Jill, Ramon, thank you very much. We appreciate it. No action necessary as a result of that, so we'll move on to the next item, which Rory, you'll come on up. We will look at the April unaudited financial report. Morning, Rory.
I do seem to always follow the exciting topics, so
Okay.
not sure how that happens.
That's because if you put you first, nobody wants to hear the second part.
The crowd might shrink. For the month of April, our budget is already in full swing. We are at the level of divisional kind of meetings with VPs. Everything has been submitted, so we're marching our way through that process. We do have a budget retreat scheduled on July 9th. Hopefully that's on your calendars. Retreat is probably a little bit of a generous word, but we'll do our best to make it exciting and informative for that day. A lot of conversation at the federal level with respect to, you hear something different every day with respect to Medicaid funding. You also hear something different with respect to ACA subsidies. I do feel like there's a general just uncertainty around all that. And one thing that I do think is certain is that in some form or fashion, we'll probably be impacted by that. And I think most likely we're going to see some developments around who's eligible for what federal programs. It'll be less obvious as they kind of try to shrink that overall Medicaid cost to the federal government. We'll see, but that's just one man's opinion. Nothing's final, nothing's set in stone, but we definitely continue to work our way through that with Shannon. She's taken over the role of kind of the government relations. She's done a great job staying abreast of all those changes, but there's so much more still to come when we start working our way through that. So when we have more solid information, we'll definitely be able to bring that forth. So your packet begins on page 19. We'll start with just the income statement. Couple of things of note this month on the income statement, very favorable operating revenues as well as supplemental funding. We'll talk a little bit about that for the month, and then also a little bit in the other operating revenue section. But overall, net income for the month of April was $18.6 million, favorable to budget. 4.3 million of that, as you can see, was really just additional patient volume revenue. We have done a tremendous amount of work, as we've talked about, just maximizing our capacity and continue to see high census numbers. And that's what's contributing to that additional net patient revenue. And then in our supplemental funding category, I know I've mentioned this previously, but what happened in the DISH funding was really just a series of years that were kind of bound up with COVID as far as reconciling year over year. Because when you submit your uninsured costs and your uninsured data, you receive these funds back, and then there's a reconciling period after that, more or less an audit period. And so in this year alone, we've had 4 to 5 years worth of those reconciliations. And that's why I keep coming back with kind of these adjustments to supplemental funding. We did not know when those audits were going to occur, wouldn't have had a specific target to say, we know that's going to occur. It just is the timing of that in this particular fiscal year.
So, or you're saying there's 4 or 5 years audits in one of our fiscal years, like the current fiscal year?
Correct. So they basically kind of halted all of that activity. And now they've reinstated those lookbacks for those programs.
And then CMS initiating those audits?
That's really, there's a organization called Myers and Stauffer, and they audit all of that for the funding.
And that's mostly made up of dish funds?
Yeah.
Lori? Okay.
It's a combination of DISH and UC, but they kind of go hand in hand, really. Uncompensated care and then disproportionate share is what the DISH stands for. But yeah, it's just been a unusual year. We're now totaling somewhere around 23 million of additional supplemental funding that was not in the budget. I think if you look, it's actually 25. So.
Good.
It's always favorable.
Well, it has been. It can be unfavorable to us. It has been favorable in every one of these particular instances, but not always. It doesn't always shake out that way.
Because we won't see this in the next fiscal year.
It'd be highly, you would have 1 year's worth of look back, most likely, not 3, 4, 5 years. That's what's occurred. Yeah. That's correct. Retail pharmacy continues to be a strong area. It's a combination really of what I would call retail pharmacy as well as specialty pharmacy that we put some focus on during our planning and budget for last year. For this year when we talked about it last year. But a lot of that retail pharmacy is just higher volume as well, more patients. And then the other operating revenue is really just a true up of our tobacco revenue. About a third of that is a tobacco revenue increase. And that is due to when the tobacco funds were originally established at the state level, they invested them. And they take those invested dollars and return a portion to the hospitals every year. And this particular distribution had to be a better investment year. And that's what caused a little bit more tobacco revenue to flow back to us. That's just another thing that we would expect around $10 million a year in tobacco revenue, and it's actually come in around 12.
Is that showing up in other?
It is another, that's correct.
Is that the main reason?
Yeah, that's the main reason. That's what I noted as I reviewed and looked through things. That was the most impactful to that number.
What's the horizon expectation on that tobacco funds? Because every year we hear, they're winding down. Are we expecting to see tobacco revenue from now on?
I actually attended the actual committee in Austin a couple of months ago. It's in perpetuity.
Wow.
That
That's incredible.
it was really actually smart in my opinion of the state to actually take that money and invest it. And they're just distributing the earnings. Basically, the corpus has remained intact really over the years.
They still have a lot of the principal.
They do.
That's amazing. And opioids going to make it look like a walk in the park, probably, by the time it's finished. Yeah, awesome.
Okay, a little bit on expenses. I've talked about the underage in salaries for the last several months. That is our annual increases to employees. We expect, those are not necessarily merit increases, but we have certain adjustments we're making for market conditions. Are we paying what we should be paying in the market? We expect that to be showing up in the June financials. So you'll see that number that we're ahead of plan year to date change substantially in the month of June. You will not see it in May, but you will in June.
You say we'll see it.
The positive variance that we're under budget on salaries it will shrink. We're doing somewhat of a retroactive adjustment there. And so that will take care of some of that favorability. Yep. And then benefits, I mentioned benefits last month a little bit around our pharmacy expense. We do have the issue identified in that pharmacy, that is our employee benefit plan. And we are in the process of correcting that with our benefits advisor, McGriff. We've had numerous conversations about kind of what happened and what caused that. And so we expect to see an adjustment going forward in our pharmacy benefit plan. So that was kind of vetted, and we understand that it was really a way that the claims were being priced, and have made an adjustment on that. And then contract labor continues to be very favorable for the year. Something we've worked on very hard and continue to be favorable, specifically in those technical nursing areas. Have seen great results in contract labor. Purchase services, we do see a significant variance for the year. I do believe we'll see some of our software cost and some additional dollars in IT come through the budget over these next couple of months. So we'll see that purchase service number really start to, I won't say we'll eat up all of that budget savings at this point, but it's definitely going to change a little bit before the end of the year. We've got some additional favorability right now, a little bit in our ERP project. We're a little bit ahead of plan there on our ERP project expenses. So those are the things that are majorly contributing to a major way in purchase services. Supplies are really higher on volume this month. And then in other operating, really maintenance and repairs has been a lot of the favorability for the year. We don't have near the expense we had last year in preparing for a survey. And so those dollars look favorable. We've also had some, really just some utility expense that's a little bit lower as well. I believe the notes this month said we had a particular building that we were able to kind of shut down utilities on. So other operating income, or excuse me, operating income there would be 14.2 favorable for the month. And then of that, 3 million is that supplemental that I mentioned. Non-operating, continue to have a little bit of investment income favorability. Interesting year to date, it's 5.2 million. Excuse me, 5.3 in the month of April is 5.2. So as a reminder, those are very much like your personal portfolio. Those are paper gains until we transact and actually sell those investments. So it's going to fluctuate and has fluctuated significantly with some of the market, stock market conditions that we've had. Just a quick recap for the year. I would like to kind of address some of that overage. As I mentioned, 23 million is tied up in DISH funding. There's a land property sale of about 5 million net, and then that salaries and wages of 12.4 million. So those are really some of the highlights. We are about $40 million below this time last year in kind of bottom line net income. And we're about 7 months through the year. The balance sheet is on page 21 of your packet. Cash is slightly down over the same period last year. Keep in mind, there's some timing of when we fund certain things such as LPPFs, and then also our average daily expenses are a little higher than they were last year as well. On our performance ratios, we go to page 22. My clicker it's catching up to me. Our FTEs per adjusted patient day continue to be favorable to this period last year at 5.59. Really a function of our volumes. And so as I've mentioned, how we calculate that as a function of outpatient revenue. So we continue to see that favorability. And both overtime and contract as a percent of salaries continue to be at our budget, below our budget, and then actually both favorable to the prior period last year as well. Cash on hand is at 215, continues to be at and above our board minimum threshold of 180 days. AR days are up a couple of days. I would just mention that we are having some significant payer issues right now. One particular item is in relation to our CHIRP funding, and we have one particular payer that has not paid all of the CHIRP dollars. It's about $4 million. So it's contributing to a little bit of an uptick in our days in AR. But there are a handful of other issues that are contributed to that as well. Statistics. I would just say on statistic, as you look down through these, we're on page 23. Just really strong statistical indicators for the entire year. One thing I have been pointing out throughout the last few months is our commercial payer mix is definitely fallen. We're right around that 8% level in commercial payer mix. It's an important thing to watch for us as we look at kind of the next budget cycle. It's really a function of our Cigna contract is now, I've mentioned some of the other hospitals that are participating, most notably Medical City. That's really taken a portion of volume away from us. And then we continue to see quite a bit of variability in that commercial payer mix. Our contracts are more Affordable Care Act focused and not so much direct employer based. And so that's why they tend to kind of ebb and flow with those ACA plans, the enrollment in the ACA plans, as well as other hospitals that are entering those plans and or exiting. That creates the variability. That's what we've seen.
Why was inpatient surgery up so much plus?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. And it's not just for the month, it's really for the year. We're up about 15, almost 16%. There's just, I mean, it all started when we were preparing to kind of shut down some of our ORs. And we're still going to shut down those ORs, but we really began to look at efficiency, scheduling, and then just utilizing all of the block time in the OR. And Dr. Assad and that team have done some really great things. And that's why you're seeing the results of that. We also have centralized our authorization and scheduling processes as part of kind of the rev cycle team. And that's paid great dividends as well. So you're really, we did not budget surgeries down. We budgeted them up over 2024, and we're still seeing 15% and also healthy outpatient growth as well. So it's really a function of leadership and efficiency creating those changes.
Thank you, Dr. Assad.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tim, thank you so much. I know I did not pay you to ask that question. There's someone that sits quietly in the back there, and that's Dr. Assad. Done with throughput and now in the OR, ruffled a few little feathers. We're able to get more of our patients through the OR, and really the surgeons are really happy for this. So great work on.
Yeah, great work. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go really to page 29 in your packet. I'm trying to make this thing move as fast as I can. Excluding days cash on hand, what cash on hand is really just a measurement point, but excluding that, there's about 9 metrics. 8 of the 9 are at stretch. The one that is not at stretch is length of stay. We continue to really perform really well on these things. Specialty pharmacy revenue, it's already at 25 million year to date, and its threshold is 37.9. So we're well on our way to achieving some of those specialty pharmacy revenue targets. And then really, if you were to project out specialty, we would probably hit stretch at this point. But The last thing I want to cover today is Chairman Fisher had asked us to give a kind of a future fund projection update. A lot of what has been talked about on this slide was talked about with Ramon and Jill kind of presenting. I want to emphasize, I would not burn this into your memory because with the project cost changing, with potential tariff impacts, this is where we sit today. And what we do with the future fund each year is we look at estimated cash flows for the next year and we make a contribution in the current fiscal year. So we have bond proceeds committed of 800 million. We now have a future fund balance of 930 of 1.1 million. And then we expect to make that additional contribution. We can estimate around 33 million, which takes us to 1.98 million, 1.99, very close to 2, I said billion. I got to get my B's and my M's correct. But that would leave a deficit of about 125 million over 4 years. Certainly makes things appear very doable for us to achieve that through operations. But again, we don't have the full picture of cost, but hopefully that fills the request that you guys can kind of see where are we with that future fund right now. Escalation in cost will totally change this, but not only escalation in cost, but everything is based on cash flow projections. So our revenues, our expenses, everything will touch this calculation. So
We have another tranche of bonds, right?
that's in the 800. That is correct. Yeah.
But I mean, year to date, we've made 195 million bucks. Is that right?
Yeah, we made 195 on a budget of 130.
91 million. I mean, just that as of April, that's what the P&L showed. So, I mean, your additional contribution shows $33 million in 2025. Is that?
We made a $300 million contribution in December and January of this fiscal year, projecting out that cash flow, and that's the additional amount on top of that. So
I just didn't know if we expected that contribution to be additional since we've kind of doubled our profit projections.
we are projecting out, so we've projected out through the end of the year. It could change from that 33 a little bit, but that's the current projection.
I guess to Dustin's point, this is as much as we can, maybe.
We could. I think that would be a little bit aggressive based on what the projection shows for the rest of the year.
Right.
And certainly we will evaluate that as we get closer to the end of the year. That's when we'll know a little bit better what that's going to look like.
Other questions for Rory?
No, thank you.
All right, we need to accept the financial report. All right, need a motion from Dr. Casey, second from Ralph. One question or discussion? All in favor say aye. That it passes. Rory, on behalf of the committee and the entire hospital system, you have spent 2 years doing yeoman's duty, extra hours, working your tail off, and don't think it's gone unnoticed. We appreciate very much what you have done. You're an integral part of our system, and every single one of us appreciate the effort. This is Rory's last time to give us the financial report.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the words. Thank
Very
you.
proud of you and look forward to keeping you around because we know that when you're there, that there is an able watchman on duty, and we appreciate that. All right, that will take us to consider approval of pricing agreement between Hospital District and W.L. Gore and Associates. Mr. Cobb?
Great, good morning. We have pricing agreement with WL for vascular supplies. Two-year agreement results in an RFP worth about 1.8 million spent.
Any questions? Not, we need a motion. A motion from Dr. Fowler, did I hear you? All right, and second from Tim. Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. And we're good, right? You're looking at me like something's wrong back there. All right, that motion carries. Thank you, sir. Jill, we have initial guaranteed max price amendment for hospital district and Austin commercial.
All right, I think we already spoke about this in our previous presentation. This is the first package for the new hospital, over $40 million for that site enabling package to include relocating franchise utilities, the hospital basement excavation and soil retention, the temporary ambulance drop-off relocation, and then mobilization of actual construction team staff.
Big step. We need a motion. A motion from Dr. Casey, second from Reverend Emerson. Any question or discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jill. Now we have approval of professional services agreement between the district and GLOBO Language Solutions. Mr. French, welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. George French, Vice President of Patient Experience. I'm here to request approval, professional service agreement with Global Language Services. They did win the RFP. This is a 5-year term for our video remote interpreter.
Any questions for George on this agreement?
Language line,
and what's our English been doing?
yes, we're averaging about 486,000 per month. We're going to extend them out. That's our next request. And so I'm assuming better pricing and the exact usage that we have right now. Our current savings, we're looking to hopefully bring in about 1.4 million.
Less than a second now.
Correct.
Same service.
Exactly.
Can you explain a little bit about these?
Sure. If we don't have an in-person interpreter available, it is an iPad on wheels. And if I speak, Swahili, you push a button and a Swahili person is there to interpret with our patient and kind of a triangulated. We try to use our in-person interpreters as much as we can, but it meets all the recommendations, ADA recommendations, and our limited English proficiency compliance standards.
And is that person speaking a real person?
Yeah, it's a real person. No, it's a real person. It's a FaceTime.
Any language?
We have hundreds. But
Yeah.
Asian French is hard to find, right? We can call it, but it's really one of the hardest ones to find.
It translates finance, but it doesn't translate the IT stuff.
This would be the same, it's an iPad, very useful, readily available units, so the same iPad would work with this. New service.
They will be bringing in new
Oh.
iPads. And the one good thing about this new company is they actually put the JPS logo on the outside, where the one we have now has their own logo on it. And so people are seeing it as us and not an outside company, which I think is amazing.
It's obviously put on the bottom of that iPad, also, that's the first thing they have.
Yeah.
That is very helpful, no, they're very helpful.
Other questions for George on this agreement?
It does. And yes, and they maintain it. The only part will be, there's an IT aspect from our team that we work well with. And they bring them in, they look at their IT, and then they move them out to and this company actually brings in their executive team, will be on site when they deliver it. So there's nothing to delay in
Do we think this is moving, somebody made it, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. We think this service is moving that direction. It's 5 years, gonna be a long term for this.
Yeah, and this is a 3-2-1 contract for 5 years, or 3-2 plus the potential of 1. And I would love for AI to be part of the next coming phase of this. But just the trust in the medical system right now to give someone potential wrong information is scary. And so I hope it does. I haven't seen anything out there that gives me that confidence still. And I don't know if any of our providers would have that confidence. Either. I'm sure.
George, to Tim's point, what's the out on this? Is it 30-day out or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we built in a 30-day out. clause. I did.
The number of languages spoken at JPS seems to go up every year. You'd have to go back to the Tower of Babel to, identify every language we speak around here. Fascinating stuff. Yeah, well, me too. Other questions for George? If not, we need a motion. Motion from Dr. Fowler, second from Tim. Any question or discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. George, we're going to keep you here for the language line services agreement.
Yes. They are our current vendor and their contract has ended about the same time I got here. So we extended them 120 days while the RFP process finished. And as it was awarded to Global, we're making that transition in. We would like to extend the language line to the end of the year, potentially, just to ensure that there's no lapse in coverage. They also have a 30-day out with language line, so if Global gets in and gets up and functioning, we can end that for no reason with the 30-day out clause.
Just kind of,
December 31st.
It's 10 months from 3 months ago.
Yes. Yeah, when we extended the 120 days in February, to end that contract, finish the RFP, and then we kind of have a month of transition that they granted us right now. And then it'll be 6 months forward. So
What's the maximum overlap?
I would look to see 2 months max, but we're building in extra just in case. The one thing we can't, we have to make sure that our patients can understand here. So we've built in some extra that I don't think we'll need.
yeah, planned redundancy here is really, really important. We can't go a day without this. So that's excellent planning. Appreciate you guys thinking through that. Any other questions for George on the extension of the language line services agreement? If not, we need a motion. Move from Reverend Emerson, second from Dr. Casey. Any question or discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. George, thank you for being here today. Mr. Showalter, we always save the best for last.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm bringing forward a $1.1 million contract for over 5 years with Risk Connect. This went through an RFP process to replace Simpler, which is from Midas, which is providing Dr. Batamosi with risk management tools. This is going to be resolving 2 issues, one of which is it's going to address some lacking business capabilities that the existing product has, mainly the user interface is poor. It doesn't allow for modification. The templates can't be built in there. We've got interoperability issue, doesn't always work appropriately with Epic. We've got reporting capabilities and we have slow performance, but other than that, it's working fine. The second area that we're looking for is we're getting the additional functionality from a business capabilities perspective to make this a tool for the overall enterprise-wide risk management program. So it's kind of a twofer. The existing product's about $227,000 on a yearly basis, so it's about a wash, and we're getting additional capabilities.
This has gone through the RFP process.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for William on the agreement?
Those the current product, same manufacturer, same company?
No, different company.
Other questions for Will? If not, we
Thank you
need a
very
motion.
much.
Motion from Tim, any second from Dr. Fowler. Any question or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you very much. Daphne, are we need to take action to table? Or,
So they're going to take that.
okay, all right. So the executive session item that was considered is going to be tabled and in fact still addressed, but addressed by the entire board, not by the finance committee. So stay tuned. That issue will be forthcoming. It made sense to be able to talk about that in the entire board because we would have no doubt taken it off the agenda and done it anyway. So good to get that one out of the way. And Daphne, does that conclude the agenda today? Let me ask you this question. Should we try to use our extra time to finish up with our training or?
They're still here because we have another session, but
We have
stored these on one that we lost.
15 minutes or so? We can probably wrap that up. Okay, so for those of you that were in the early morning board training session, if you can stay another 15 minutes, we
Maybe
can.
Dorothy can join the other one.
Yeah, maybe we could call her.